Alright, so we got two major things to go over today. First of all, update 48 patch notes are out. Basically, if you want a TLDR, nothing happened. To be honest, there's a new zone. You have to complete event. The community has to complete event to unlock the new zone. Is how I believe it works. They added a bunch of furnishing. They added 2 new houses. They added like 1 new pet, 1 new mount, whatever. There's not much in here. The event doesn't give double XP. It doesn't give double AP. It only gives companion XP, as you see right here. Completely useless, as always. There's the new houses, a bunch of new furnishing. What else do we have in here? Oh, yeah. For this here, they updated some backend calculations to reduce strain on the server. So at least they're trying to help fix some certain performance issues here, which is kind of good. Again, they kind of changed some more things. You can now use potions, food, and drinks while casting or channeling an ability. They balanced no skills. No skills got balanced besides the dual wield. Steel Tornado now does a 33% bonus damage to targets under 50% HP. But nothing here that really changed. No class balancing, no nerfs, no buffs to any skill lines or skills or anything. Werewolf technically got I think this, I would call this a buff. So basically, if you have more than 5,000 weapon spell damage or 22,000 stamina or magic on your werewolf, you'll see an increase in your heavy attack power, opposed to, because there's like, apparently this was giving like extra unlisted damage that wasn't supposed to. Banner Bearer bug fix was something with Arcanist and class mastery. The exploit with Banner Bearer does still work. They did not fix that. The wearing multiple sets bug exploit also still works. They didn't fix either one of those exploits. Dungeon sets, nothing got changed here. This kind of got a change to this. So I believe like when you land the heavy attack fully, then the set goes off or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Set out triggers of dealing damage. Okay, so now basically if you hit somebody and you do damage, now it'll shoot out the little thing, opposed to just completing it, and if they roll dodge it, it would still shoot it out. They fixed the monomyth bug. And then they came out with 4 new sets, none of which will be good in PvP. I'm sorry. They have this, basically just gives magicka and stam recovery when something dies. This, I'm guessing, is the new mythic, which can be used probably for gankers and maybe some DPSs and PvE, depending on what the percentage is. Basically, when you do a fully charged heavy attack, you deal percentage more damage to an enemy you marked and less % damage to everybody else. And then if they die, then you gain magicka and stamina. And it can happen once every 10 seconds. Fellowship's Fortitude. This gives like 7,000 armor or something. And then like a bunch of health. And then you get mana protection at all times. Which 12 pieces useless. Shared Burden. Again, useless set. It's just a companion set. Nothing happened here. That's basically the majority of the patch notes. Once again, doubling down on Vengeance. Going over Vengeance right here, we now have loadouts like Call of Duty. Basically, you can be a soldier. I'm guessing this is like a frontline, or not like a frontline, but like a well-rounded class. Support, which is your battle medic. This is basically your healer. Frontline fighting, Vanguard. I'm assuming this is a tank. And then skirmishing, scout. I'm guessing this is like a ganker or sniper bow user. Basically, you'll have to pick one of these now, and they kind of basically took out all types of... They made Vengeance trash, in my opinion. This is just worse than what it was. I'm not sure what their idea here was. And just like Call of Duty, they added perks. You get 3 different types of perks, red, blue, and yellow, kind of like Call of Duty. They have to be slotted in the red, blue, or yellow. They were too lazy to actually list what all the perks and all of the buffs and changes to all these classes and perks do in the patch notes. That's just pure laziness in my opinion. And that's really it. There's now an Emp in Vengeance. And They increased the damage of siege and siege weapons and vengeance, and that's basically it. They didn't really do anything for any of these patch notes in week 1, and as you know, week 1 is usually the big one, right? Because week 1 basically shows you exactly everything that's happening. I was kind of hoping that at the beginning, when they on the dev stream, when they announced that there was going to be mostly bug fixes and there wasn't much balancing, I was hoping they would add 1 or 2, maybe 3 balances. They did literally nothing. They balanced absolutely nothing. We're now 3 months into subclassing, over 3 months, 3.5, and we've had 0 balancing basically. We're still in the same meta, both PvE, PvP. Nothing has changed. Sorry about that. That's the end of the patch notes. There's not very much on the patch notes. That's literally it. I now want to get on to the embarrassment, as always, as our head of PvP director. I'm going to try to go through this as fast as I can. Skinny Cheeks made a video on his Reddit thread, basically, of him interacting with the devs. Basically, they announced the new dev team, right, after they made leadership changes. Draven's still here. We have Mike Finnegan, who's so far, and Jason Barnes, who don't seem like good devs so far. Brian Willer, who has never been a good dev. Obviously, Gino Bruno is still there, as you see up here. Joe Burba, I mean, this guy's in charge. Brian Willer's in charge, and they're not making any good changes. Let's skip to Skinny Cheeks, who has now made a point of ZOS has earned a bit of a track record of getting things close to a finished product and leaving it feel like it's only 85% of the way there. Hybridization still isn't finished. Infinite Archive has no way to save progress. Hundreds of gear sets left behind in a place where there are no good uses for them. Feels like we keep stacking the next new thing on top, but so much needs to be cleaned up. Do you guys plan on making stuff like this a priority? If so, how do you go about getting this right? Basically, imagine building a house. ESO, the plan for ESO is a big, beautiful mansion. And what they did is they built that big, beautiful mansion on a foundation of mud, aka the servers and the performance and the spaghetti code. The mansion being ESO, the game itself, with the way how the combat works and the overall goal of the game, right? How the game works when it actually works and when it was balanced, right? The potential of it. And then you have the inside. Basically what ZOS does is the game started and the interior of the house is the way it looks, right? Pictures, furniture, all that. Basically they have a bunch of ugly pictures. A bunch of ugly furniture. Nobody likes it. Instead of replacing and renovating that furniture, getting new furniture, new cabinets, new pictures, instead they leave those there. They don't touch them. They buy new furniture, new pictures, put it around all the old furniture, and like, hey, we hope you forget about all the ugly old furniture. We put new furniture. But that doesn't fix the issue. It doesn't fix the issue of your mud foundation of your mansion. It doesn't fix the issue of all the ugly stuff inside the mansion. And all you keep adding is more ugly stuff inside the mansion, hoping we'll forget about the old ugly stuff. But you haven't done any good for the game in quite a while. So, let's get to the devs. Basically, Philip Draven says that they have a lot of upcoming... They're looking at revisiting old features and balancing them, you know, and... you know, making more reasons to collect item sets beyond their use. Skinny Cheek says thanks. We then have Nick, who basically says they focus too much on the next thing and has led to systems and content falling behind. And now they plan on being more interactive, you know, listen closely to feedback, try to quickly improve based on what they hear, you know, and hopefully this helps with what they release going forward. They like evolution, not revolution. Means that they will be revisiting and making improvements to existing system, and he thinks that that's a core part of creating a rewarding experience to all players. I completely agree. Then we have Brian Dodo, right here. Basically, the crit pots, basically unfinished hybridization means that, you know, Crit buffs, major brutality buff, you know, they should be combined, right? Instead of separating the two, kind of like the Apprentice Mundus and the Warrior Mundus, they should be one. Now that we have hybridization, there's no reason to have them split, making the game more difficult and for whatever reason. Brian Wheeler here says, regarding consumables, we recently dug into adjusting the values of consumables to fit within our adjusted combat values we've been applying since 2019. Basically, they made a spreadsheet in 2019, aka ever since the game has been going downhill. And basically, they made the spreadsheet of rules, and they follow these rules. Clearly not working. I found that it would have been far more detrimental to make some of the changes necessary, and almost needlessly so. Many of the consumables have needed to be nerfed, in some cases extremely so. It was determined in those discussions that it would not be seen as a net positive change, despite aligning with our hybridization efforts. So we're looking into other avenues for consumable balance changes in the future. Throughout that process, however, we did tackle a lot of long-standing bugs regarding improper tooltip, information, other UI issues. Regarding gear, that's a very subjective thing regarding what's viable or not, as every set has a place in ESO, depending if you like trials, PvP, or just roaming around gathering for crafting. Some sets may not be seen as optimal for some content versus others, but again, there's a subjective viewpoint tied to activity engagement. Are there some sets that are better for PvP versus trials? Absolutely. That's not to say we won't look at itemization and how to make it exciting going forward. But going back and simply buffing underutilized sets is simply going to create an arms race or increase vertical power beyond what works within balance limits. Now, if we alter those balance limits for content, we could revisit all item sets or work on other methods of giving people power to compensate for the higher needs to complete that content. For now, however, that is not in the plans. Basically, what Brian Wheeler's saying is that we don't want to fix potions, we don't want to finish hybridization, and we don't want to fix old sets. Skinny Cheeks then absolutely mollywops this guy. By the way, like I said, Skinny Cheek mollywops this guy. Here's Gilliam saying that they plan on combining those buffs, which they never did. Now you have these guys over here. These guys also absolutely fry Brian Wheeler because Brian Wheeler is completely lost. I don't know what he's doing, to be honest. I'm sure Brian Wheeler in real life is probably a cool guy. It's just he's not very good at his job of being an ESO dev. You can even have an imbalance between food and sets or food potion sets because they don't compete with each other. True, they compete with other things in their categories and can be imbalanced relative to themselves. Consumable things makes no sense. Yes, eating a food gives you more stats than the 2 through 4 piece of an armor set, and that's bad because why? Just make a new rule saying that consumables, since they are temporary, are supposed to be more powerful than permanent things. Makes a lot of sense. Nerfing food is not, nerfing food and gutting food is not going to help. Gutting potion resources and whatever, and poisons is not going to help. They're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to be this useful. The way you have your food and things of that nature are unironically some of the best, most balanced, accurate things you have in the game. The way potions are, all you have to do with potions is combine your buffs. Combine your weapon and spell damage buff. Combine your weapon and spell crit buff. That's all you really have to do. It's not that hard. It's really not. Food like Bear Haunch or whatever might be a little strong. You just need to give it something to compete with. For example, Dubious Cameron Throne. If you give it both stamina and magicka with a little bit of each of those resources, maybe it can compete. I don't know. There's some balances to be made. Basically, Skinny Cheeks yaps here. Here's Skinny Cheeks, once again, absolutely frying Brian Wheeler. For the consumables, saying that can't be adjusted because some arbitrary limitations that you guys have put in place. You realize you all make the rules, right? Better is better, doesn't have to fit in some imaginary box. As far as set balance, I understand not every set is made for every scenario. Of course not. It's not about creating an arms race, it's about the sets that have no place. How would making sets usable increase vertical power and not horizontal? It doesn't increase vertical power at all. Are you guys really happy with the current state of item sets? I could sit down with you guys for a couple hours, go through at least a couple hundred, easy adjustments, make them usable again. Basically, yes. What Skinny Cheek said, yes. I don't want to make this video too long, man. Just agree. We just have to agree with him, right? They made imaginary rules that they have to follow. And they've been following it. It's kind of like the Constitution, except garbage. Right here, we're actively talking about other methods of rewarding people outside of item sets. I don't even know what that means, but okay. But also, if we can / how we can revitalize interest in items that currently exist by not simply going back and buffering or altering old item sets. Why can't we do that? What is the issue with going back and fixing old sets? What's wrong with going back and buffing, you know, Cold Harbor's favorite? We're going back and slightly buffing Hunting's Rage. What's wrong with that? I don't know what your goal is here. The limitation on balance numbers were put in place on abilities and item sets over the years, since 2019, as he stated, to have standards applied across the board as opposed to randomly assigned values. They don't have to be randomly assigned values, right? You can have standards applied across the board. You just need good standards applied across the board. You don't have that right now. Whatever the I'd love to see like the spreadsheet that they have, or like the standards that they, like the sheet they have for the standards, because I'd love to read them. Content teams have built around those standards for over the years as well, like 2019, and the game going downhill since then. To which, admittedly, subclassing and subsequent patches have disrupted a little bit. We are working to address that as well as with long-term plans. The issue with consumables at the moment is their current values were originally assigned long before today's standards were put in place, which kind of makes a lot of think of it like this, right? He kind of proves the point here of you made these potions and consumables, right, long before you place these standards. The most balanced part of your game is your consumables. Mostly, right? Poisons, potions, food. It's like the smallest worry of the game right now, right? Everything else is in a terrible state. Food, potions, and poisons is not in a terrible state. That should show you, right, part of the reason why this spreadsheet's not working. Adjusting consumables to current standards, adjusting them to be balanced to the rest of the game, which they don't need to be balanced to the rest of the game. They need to be balanced to themselves compared to others. Would have resulted in a large loss of power, which we deem not a solid win for players. We can't adjust the math to make those better, because then those would be out of whack with the rest of abilities and items. Everything is connected that way, thus causing a greater imbalance. Again, why are you trying to balance different things? Why are you trying to balance abilities and items together, and potions and poisons together, and poisons and whatever? Poisons versus sets, and abilities versus consumables, or whatever it is. Why are you trying to balance these things all together? It doesn't make sense to lump them in all together. They're different aspects of the game. They're not the same thing. They do different things. You know, the food is supposed to give you more health, right? Than item sets would do, or passives and class skill lines would do. It's what they're supposed to do. Again, 4 downvotes. What do we have next up here? Not gonna lie, this sounds like adding more to the current issues we are facing. Stack more new reasons to want gear on top of an incredibly unsturdy foundation instead of fixing the foundation. Make the gear good and interesting across the board. That is the answer. Then go and add incentives on top of it after that is in place. He literally just told Brian Wheeler how to fix the game, basically. He just told every dev, hey, this is what you need to do. They're not going to listen. The whole consumable talk actually blows my mind. So you can't just adjust them, because if you did, then you have to adjust them to new standards, and nerf them, because if you didn't nerf them, they'd be out of balance. Yet they are okay unadjusted as is. Do you hear how wacky that sounds? It sounds very wacky, man. You're contradicting. He contradicted himself. Maybe the spreadsheet isn't so accurate if it has left us in the current state we are in, which is a terrible state of ESO, unfortunately. A lot of people get mad when you knock on the game, right? And you say ESO is getting bad and stop playing. Brother, we want the best for the game. We all play the game. We want what's best for the game. Like, we are trying to emphasize to the devs, it's a business, right? Eamon was saying, well, if they were rude, Why would they want to? It would make me know. Yeah, but it's not the same thing. I'm not going up to one of my mods and saying, hey, you're terrible at being a mod. I hate you. That's going to make them not want to mod. They're not getting paid. They're not doing anything, right? I'm treating them like garbage, right? This is a business. It's a massive billion-dollar business. And it's not hard to fix it, right? We tell them, right? Hey, fix your game. We're going to do this instead. Hey, fix your game. We're going to do this instead. Bro, are you okay in the head? Hurry up and fix your game. You're doing this all wrong. And, oh, well, I don't want to fix it. You hurt my feelings. Buddy, listen, we're trying to help you. We want the game to succeed. We want y'all to make more money. We want the game to last 10 years, another 10, 15 years. We want all this stuff. Why aren't you listening to the community? Listening to the community is how games last. End of the day, you don't have to do anything. We just want fun and exciting stuff to engage with. Obviously, the whole spreadsheet balance, everything just isn't working. You guys are pinning yourself into a little tiny space. And yeah, so everybody, this is a masterclass in not understanding your own game. Yes. Yeah, it makes no sense, but every other source for the buffs gives both. Generally, what is Wheeler even talking about? Adjusting values of consumables. All I've seen asked for in regards to consumables hybridizing the buffs, like giving Major Prophecy and Saturday on magical restore pots. In what world would that be unbalanced? Am I misunderstanding? Because if they tweak the number, that means they have to adhere to the new rules, but if they don't touch it, they can put it in a drawer and pretend it doesn't exist. The game, the way the devs, not even all the devs, right, just Brian Wheeler is unfortunately speaking for all of the devs in his comments, saying what they're all looking at, and they're looking at the wrong things. So even though Nick and Draven's responses looked good, right? Brian Wheeler basically aired it out of what's actually going on behind the scenes and how bad everything is going right now and how much they're not listening to the community. Their goal is to listen to the community, and they're just not doing it, and they haven't been doing it. So right now, the game is not in a good state, right? I don't hate ESO. We all love the game. Just hate the state that ESO is currently in. And we're hoping that they can finally listen to the community and fix the game. That's all we want. It's not hard. It's not hard. Just listen to the community. Just listen to the community. That's all I gotta say. Patch notes were trash. Nothing happened in any of them really. And you saw these, so. Make sure y'all go check out Skinny Cheeks.